Hello, this is Igoro, host of the Igoro Show, and you are listening to the Steve and Crypto Show. So keep your ears open and your mouth shut.
Hey, welcome to the Steve and Crypto Show, presented by thestevestrout.com. I'm Steve.
I'm Crypto Zoo.
How have you guys been? You guys having a nice spring? I guess it's spring, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. I don't know, man. We live in Washington. It's raining or it's not raining.
It's raining right now.
It's raining. Okay, see, it's normal. But anyways, hey, you guys been enjoying the show? Take a moment and pop by our Buy Me a Coffee page where it's basically like tipping us for all our hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, minus the sweat and blood. Might be a little bit of tears, but especially like there's a couple times we recorded sessions and I didn't press record. That brought about some tears
for days and days.
But we are having a good time doing this for you, and we want to keep doing this and bringing you guys the best show we can. So any way you guys want to contribute, it really helps. So head over to buymeacoffee.com/SteveCrypto.
Yep. And big thanks to anyone who has contributed so far. We really appreciate it. It's definitely helping to keep the show moving along and helping things improve and sound better for all of you. And we just enjoy doing this for you. Hope you guys enjoy listening to it. This is episode 25 you're on now. And the last one, we bullshitted a little bit about Mortal Kombat, the mixed reviews with that film. We had a little talk with the Bone Ranger, and he, told us about some of his stories with music and COVID and whatnot. And hope you guys enjoyed that. And this one here, I'm gonna quote Trey and Matt from South Park and just say, like they did in the beginning of South Park with every episode, this is our favorite episode. And this features an interview with someone that we formed a cool relationship with, and he's actually one of our first big companies that we've teamed up with for the Steve and Crypto Show. So we're talking with Ben Scrivens from Fright Rags.
Yeah, he's the owner of Fright Rags. He's the man that started it. He's you know him from the 80s horror documentary. He's always been one of the interview subjects. He's really knowledgeable about horror, as you'll see in the conversation. He's very enthusiastic, which really got me excited talking to him, because he's like, dude's got a good energy. He's a good dude. Yeah. He has a great company. They put out amazing products that we're really excited about. Like I keep throwing money at him, but
he is definitely one of us. He's very passionate about horror, like we are, and like most of you are that are listening to this. And if you go to frightrags.com, you'll see how passionate he is about his horror.
They put out, like I said, a lot of cool stuff. And if you do go to Fright Rags, you can use the listener code SteveCrypto10 at checkout.
One word.
And save yourself a little money. That's always good, especially this day and age. But before we get to our interview with Ben Scrivens, I just want to remind you guys to get out to your local Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or wherever you pick up comics and magazines and get the new issue of Scary Monsters magazine. Issue 121 has Mummy on the cover. The Steve and Crypto Show has an ad in there, and it looks really fucking cool in print. I'm more excited about it than I probably should be, but it's all good.
Hey, and it's just in time for Mummy's Day. You can get one for your mummy.
Shut up. Let's run the interview. Meet Ben Scrivens from Fright Rags, and we will talk to you guys later. Hey guys, we are hanging out on the Steve and Crypto Show with Ben Scrivens, the man behind Fright, one of our our personal favorite companies to shop and buy all our favorite horror merch from. Obviously, if you guys listen to us, we promote them every week because we love the company. I know I've definitely spent a little money there the last couple of weeks on some cool stuff like the Darcy the Mail Girl action figure and the Night of the Living Dead stuff the week before. So, I love their stuff, and we are excited to have Ben here to tell us a little about the company and tell us about some of his own personal interests. So,
yeah, thanks for having me. It's glad to be here.
So let's jump right in and tell us Fright Rags. How did you get it started? Why did you start it? All that good stuff.
So I started it in 2003. It was September of 2003. I had been working at my day job for a little over a year at that point, or around a year at that point. I was a graphic designer at a laptop bag company. And it was a cool job because I was one of three people at the company. So I really got to know the inner workings of like the business. It wasn't some big conglomerate corporation where I was just some cog in the wheel. Like I was sitting next to the founder or the owner of the company, and they were making some cool products, and it was this kind of young upstart. And I was in charge of doing like product photography and graphic design and website design and ads and stuff. So it was neat, but it was also just laptop bags. And I had a lot of sort of creative energy, and I've always been kind of a creative person. I've always wanted to make something. I just never knew what. And, at the time, my girlfriend, now my wife, but then girlfriend, we were living in an apartment. We didn't have kids yet. We weren't married yet. Didn't have a house, all those responsibilities. So I had a little bit more free time. And I spent a lot of my time on forums online because this is before social media, before Facebook, let alone, MySpace.
The good old days. Yep.
Yeah. So I would be in all these message boards, horror message boards, and some of the ones I gravitated toward were like prop replicas because I really wanted to get, like, no joke, in 1996, the very first time I ever used the internet was in college, and in web crawler, I literally typed in Don Post Captain Kirk 75 mask. That's what I wanted because it was the Michael Myers mask. So, I mean, I've always wanted like a replica Myers mask or Jason mask, something like that. So I gravitated towards one particular forum called Night Owl, who was run by by a guy named Justin Mabry, who went on to form Trick or Treat Studios. And he and I became really good friends. And we would talk for, literal hours. 4, 5, 6 hours on the phone, like a few times a week. It was crazy because we were the same age and we had the same interests and ever. Anyway, I just thought I really want to do something. I'm not going to make masks. I have an apartment. I can't even get into that, let alone I didn't even know what I was doing. And I knew screen printing a little bit. I'd taken it in college and in high school. And I really liked weird t-shirts. Like I always gravitated towards wearing like some random kind of t-shirts, even in high school. Like I remember walking into a department store and there was one with just a big Gilligan face on it. And I just thought that would be cool. Like it was back right around the time like pop culture and sort of retro vibe was even starting to make its way into the mainstream kind of whatever. So I thought I don't have any horror shirts and I'm a big horror fan. I've been a horror fan all my life. So I thought, what's out there? And I saw Rotten Cotton and he made some cool stuff, but it wasn't things that I would technically wear. So I had this idea, and really what started it all was this shirt or this design that I came up with. And it was because What Would Jesus Do was so popular back then. So I put WW hockey mask D. So what would Jason do? And I just thought that was silly and funny. And I looked it up on Google and I couldn't find any instance of this idea anywhere. So I thought, okay, I don't know if I created this idea, but certainly it's not out there. Maybe I could put that on a t-shirt. That would look kind of cool. And then, what if I took the hockey mask itself and just blew it up and didn't put any words on it and just made it a hockey mask? And then what if I did like a generic Michael Myers looking thing? So Justin liked them and he posted them on his forum for me because I didn't want to spam his forum with my crap, but he posted them because he really liked them. And people just started saying, oh man, I'd buy that. And I was like, maybe I should try to do something with this. So I put together these designs and I found a place online that would print them for me. It was wicked expensive. They were like $10 a piece to print. So I was going to get 20 each of the design. So I was going to get like 60 shirts for $600. And I remember being at work, like hovering over the buy now button. And I didn't have $600. My girlfriend and I were about to get married and I had my credit card, but I was like, so I just clicked the buy now button and got them. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't even know. Oops. Oh boy. Sorry. 1 second. Okay. My computer said it was about to restart. And I was like, nope. So anyway, I was, I was just like, maybe I'll just start a website, So I came up with this name, Fright Rags, and I hand coded the HTML website and I linked it up to PayPal and got it ready and, put it on Night Owl and, started taking orders, and it was pretty wild. I got a few orders in the beginning, and I'll never forget the first few that came in. And I was like, man, someone just sent me like, $20 for a t-shirt. That's crazy. Like, it just blew my mind that you could just put something out there, and then again, it's not like orders just rolled in and I quit my job and the rest is history. I mean, it took years, but it was the spark, that started it all.
Right. It probably helped at first, with financially that you had experience. You were able to design your own stuff. You were able to build your own website and all that good stuff. I'm sure that really.
Yeah, because nowadays it's, it is easier nowadays. You can get a site up and running in like, 10 minutes and have it look really slick and professional. And that's a good thing. And you can hire designers for even cheaper now or whatever. I mean, obviously really good people are more expensive, which they should be. But I just mean I feel like the barrier to entry nowadays is so much lower than it was back then. And there wasn't a Shopify back then where you could just download a quick template. I mean, there were things like that, but you really had to have a little bit more knowledge about how to do it. Because I remember even looking at like, I had to link the PayPal buy now button to the thing, and it had a link to the right thing in PayPal. Like it was just a little more hands-on than it is now, where it's pretty much you can hit a couple buttons. I mean, I started a website for my daughter last year. She was starting a business, and it was like, I helped her and I helped design it, and it took really not much time at all because everything is always so easy to do.
Right. So how long did you run it like that before you were able to decide that, okay, this is like my career now?
It took, I started it in September of 2003 and I quit my full-time job in January of 2008. Right. And I went on to, basically what happened was it just took, I think it was Seth Godin who said, it takes 5 years to become an overnight success. And it's kind of true. Like all of this work that I did, it was all my free time. It was nights, it was late nights, it was early mornings, it was standing in line at the post office on my lunch break, it was packing orders before I went to work, it was a lot of stuff. So I just worked at it, even when no one knew who I was or what Fright Rags was or anything. I just kept going. And in the summer of 2007, a friend of mine asked me, he's like, well, can't you quit your job now? And I was like, I don't even know if I could, because all the money, I had a separate account for the business, but I never took money out of it. It was always just the business money. So I never paid myself. This wasn't anything I was making money on. I mean, yeah, maybe I'd buy like some beer or something, but like that was literally just money for the business. So I didn't know what that looked like. So I decided at the time, which was crazy, interest on online savings accounts was 5%, which is ridiculous. It was awesome. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to open up an account at this bank that I have no other affiliation with. And I'm going to take my personal paycheck, what I would make at my job. I'm going to take that amount of money out of my Fright Rags money every week automatically and put it over to this other account and just let it happen. And I just set it up automatically. And I didn't think about it afterward. And I just kept doing my thing. I kept working and I kept doing Fright Rags. And it was about 5 or 6 months later, I realized nothing had changed in my life. The business was running fine. I was able to buy the shirts and, pay designers or do what I needed to do. And yet I was paying myself, quote unquote, but that money was going into a savings account that was making 5% interest. So now I've got 5-6 months of income built up because I just had my first child, and it's scary to think about quitting your job.
Yeah.
And so around January of 2008, I found an opening for a position at a graphic design firm. It was, really small. It was this one woman firm, really. She had one other employee, and she needed a junior level designer to do some work, like 20 hours a week. And so I applied, and she was basically saying because I'd been in kind of the field for a while. I was a little overqualified, but I told her, I said, listen, I have my own company. I just want something on the side here. And she's like, oh, you're hired. So I worked there until August, and then I had to quit that because I was too busy with Fright Rags. So really, as of August 2008, I haven't had a real job.
Well, being too busy with Fright Rags isn't exactly a big complaint now, is it?
No, not at all. I felt bad because I would go into that job, and the first thing I would do was check and at the time it was a BlackBerry. I would check my BlackBerry for emails and stuff, or go off to the bathroom and write email. And I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, she was very supportive. She was very gracious. And, but I was like, I got to just focus on this full time.
So was it, had you already, had your first, what's the word I'm thinking of? Sorry, I just had a brain blank. I just worked all day. You had your first movie franchise deal?
Well, not anything terribly big. It's funny, in the beginning, I couldn't afford licensing, and I didn't even know how that world worked. Yeah. But literally within 2 months of me starting the company, I got my first license, which was the easiest license I'd ever had, and that was Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. I found the director online somewhere, and he's the one that owned those two movies because they're different from the first one. Right. And he faxed me over a quick license agreement at my job, and I signed it and faxed it back, and there was no money involved up front, which is rare. And I've had that license to this day. He passed away several years ago, but he sort of grandfathered me into just having it. And there's another person that we work with now, but basically he's like, just do whatever you want and, have at it. So that was nice of him, obviously. But by 2008, 2009, I had done some small deals. There were some little things here and there. And I had tried to get some licensing, but it was so expensive, and I didn't know that world. And it really wasn't until right around 2010, I started really getting into it. And then it quickly escalated and more and more and more. And within, a few years, everything was licensed.
Right. Do you have a favorite license that you have obtained so far out of all of them, or maybe one that you haven't obtained yet that you would like to down the road, or anything like that?
Yeah, both. So I think the easiest one to say that's my favorite is Halloween, because it's the movie that got me into horror. It's my favorite movie of all time, regardless of genre. I mean, it's the movie for me. Like, pre-Fright Rags, that was still everything to me. And so that was one early on that I really wanted. And I was in discussions with them for many years, from about 2005 to about 2013, when we finally got the license. Doors would start to open and then shut, and start to open and shut. And it was so frustrating. And then we finally got it. And we have a great relationship with the studio. We can work with them directly, which not many people can do. I mean, we can call each other up and talk about ideas. I was just on email with them like a half an hour ago, just talking about ideas that we have. And they've been really great to work with. So it's awesome because not only is it a great relationship where it's almost like a playground, but it's my favorite movie of all time. And to be able to work with these people and I've even gotten to know like PJ is one of my good friends now. Like, I can text her. Like, I was just texting her images of her figure that we're putting out tomorrow, and she's like, "That's great. I love it so much." And it's really it's humbling and just amazing to be able to be involved in that way, just to make our stuff. And then in terms of what I would love to get, The white whales right now are most properties that Warner Brothers have, because we've been trying to deal with them for years, and we haven't gotten in there yet. I mean, I've been to their offices, I've met with them several times, I email them, we talk to each other on the phone. There's been so many conversations, but it just hasn't happened, unfortunately. But they have, even though there's been a lot of litigation, but there's still Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street are still properties. We've done them in the past on a limited basis. Years ago, we did some unlicensed one, like limited editions here and there. But I stopped doing that years ago because I was like, I just want to get the licenses for these. And I don't want to keep doing that type of stuff. I'd rather just wait until we get the deal. I just didn't know it was going to take like 10 years. But that's okay. We've got enough to chew on, and when it comes around, hopefully we'll be there and we can work on them. Those would be great. I mean, we've been very fortunate to work with so many amazing titles and ones that I grew up watching and just fan favorites and stuff. So those are two that I would love to have.
It's got to be a treat for you to be able to like pitch your ideas for shirts and different things to the studio themselves, kind of be like, hey, I'm rolling with this. What do you think? And that's just sounds so fun for horror fans like yourself.
It is, but it can be really frustrating because weirdly enough, you would think, these studios, they own the film, so they know everything, right? And it's almost always the opposite, where you have these green, fresh faces that are literally like 22 years old coming into this job going, and they're just, and nothing, I'm not putting them down. That's their job. They got this job in licensing. And so they're now in charge of the catalog of properties. They don't know all these films, let alone most of the horror stuff. So if we submit something and they're like, we don't know what this is. And I'm like, well, at 35 minutes and 20 seconds, this person's head pops up and that's where it's from. You know what I mean? Like, this is your movie. We have to describe them and we have to describe to them what these things mean and what we're doing, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but it is funny that we're actually almost teaching them. And in some cases, we'll ask about properties that they're like, well, we don't own that. And I said, no, you actually own that. You should check. And then they go to their legal department and they go, oh yeah, we do own that. And I'm like, well, can we get a license? They're like, sure. But a lot of it, the frustrating part though, is when you have limitations. I mean, I don't mind limitations, but there are a lot of times where it's like, you can't use anybody's face. You can't use this. You can't use that. Like we dealt with that with Die Hard. We couldn't even use the building. We couldn't use Takanumi Plaza.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, we can't use that, and we can't use Bruce Willis. We can't use anybody else in the film. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you have?
Like, what do you have? You can't even show the building, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of silhouettes. It was a lot of this, it's a lot of not showing your face. So that can be kind of deflating, even though I think some of our best designs have been born out of this limitation too. So it's not always a bad thing.
What have been probably some of your most gratifying partnerships? Like, I know you guys did the stuff with the George Romero Foundation and stuff like that.
We've been fortunate to work with some great partners. I mean, the George Romero Foundation has been amazing because we work directly with Suzanne Romero, his widow, and it's nice to know that we're trying to just help that cause, and live, have Romero's name live on, last summer Shudder came to us about partnering about doing a Black Lives Matter shirt, which we were able to raise like $67,000. It was incredible.
That's great.
It was great. This year will be the third year that we're doing the Fangoria Pride shirt, which is the rainbow Fangoria logo. And it's funny, that one, this is what I love about the community and just in general. Like, I was in Las Vegas in June of 2000, I guess it would be 18, right? Yeah. 19, I guess it was. I can't remember. Maybe it was 19. 19, that's what it was. And I'm literally sitting at one of my favorite cigar bars. I'm having a mojito and a cigar, and I'm on my phone. And I see on Twitter this Phil from Fangoria and a bunch of people are having some fun with this like hashtag, where are the reds? Because someone was complaining that their the new cover of Fango didn't have red on it, which I thought people thought were funny. So it was a joke. It was silly. And we were just really making fun and going back and forth, but we were being silly about it. And I think someone mentioned doing, like someone did a rainbow thing or whatever, but whatever. No one said anything about doing a shirt or whatever. And I had my headphones on and I was walking back to my hotel and I started thinking about it. I'm like, this could be a really cool thing. Maybe we could do a rainbow Fangoria shirt and donate, like do it for a gay pride month and donate the proceeds to a charity. I'm like, that would be cool. So as soon as I got back to my hotel, I wrote Phil, I texted him and I was like, hey, what do you think? He goes, I was thinking the same exact thing. I'm like, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And it was just so cool how this idea was just born out of just what started as sort of a joke in a different way, turned into this really fun, positive thing that we've been doing now 3 years in a row and raising money for all these charities, and it's just, those are gratifying things for me because it helps us, give back. We donate every year to several charities. Every Thanksgiving, we generally pick local charities and national charities to donate to. It just, I don't know, it just feels good to at least give something back, using this for good, if you will,
Yeah, it's nice to do something that you love while also being able to help out a great cause.
Yeah, I mean, it being, fortunate enough to have the company going and being successful, doing something cool that you enjoy, like you kind of feel like not an obligation to give back, but it's just, it's just one of them things, like you just feel right about it.
I mean, it is sort of an obligation, at least for me, because we've been extremely blessed and grateful, especially during this pandemic, oddly enough, for as tragic as it has been for so many people in so many industries. We are among those who've thrived during it. I know we're not the only ones. Other e-commerce places, obviously online sales have grown. Other companies have grown. We grew exponentially over the last year. And it's so weird because in the very beginning, I remember thinking, I don't know if I'm going to have a company in a few weeks. I didn't know it was going to happen. Who the hell knew? You couldn't even get toilet paper. Who's going to buy a horror t-shirt?
Right.
Who the hell cares about buying, Evil Dead t-shirt when you can't get toilet paper and you're worried about dying, and what I mean? Like, so I'm like the last person you need to be buying from, and yet business just like exploded and it was crazy. So yeah, I do feel a sense of like responsibility to at least attempt to give back something, I mean, use this for, I've been very blessed in my life to be able to not only have this as a career, but I've been afforded so many opportunities with this business and fringe benefits, meeting people and having experiences that I would have never have had before if it weren't for this. So I count myself extremely lucky, and anytime I can give back and help anybody in any way, I try to.
Right. You mentioned those experiences and like meeting people and stuff. Well, what's one of like the biggest holy shit, this is happening moments?
Oh man,
since the company started? I'm sure there's a lot, but
there's a lot. Well, I'll okay. There is one that I will say, but like just a couple, just to kind of run through. Like we do screenings here in Rochester. It's called Saturday Night Rewind. We do them every month. Well, pre-COVID. And it's just like art house screenings. We do like, we'll show Evil Dead, or we'll show Halloween, or, we'll show different movies, and not just horror. We'll do like Commando, we'll do Christmas Vacation, we'll do all sorts of things. But during this whole thing, we've been able to bring people in. So one time we had PJ Souls in for the weekend. We showed Halloween, and that was pretty cool because it was my personal 35 millimeter print of the film that we were showing. And I was sitting next to her during the whole movie. And it was like me and my wife and her and her boyfriend. And we got to hang out all weekend. It was awesome. We had Joe Bob up here way before last drive-in. It was 2016. We built an entire Monster Vision set for him on our stage.
Right.
The whole side of a trailer, and we had the TV and everything. And he did an intro for the Warriors. But he and I hung out all weekend. We drank so much whiskey and smoked so many cigars. It was amazing. Like literally, this guy. Like we hung out until like 3 a.m. every night. No joke. It was insane. He's awesome. But the biggest holy shit moment that I've ever had, probably, I think, I don't think anything tops this right now, is in October of 2019, I got to visit the set of Halloween Kills, and it happened to be the first night that Jamie was back on set, and I got to talk to her for a little while.
Oh, wow.
But I was there I was there for 2 nights of shooting, and they were both like 12-hour shoots, and I was on set the whole time. David Gordon Green was wearing our Halloween 78 jacket while he was directing. I was just hanging out with the people on the crew and the cast and going to craft services for dinner and staying up all night. And then during the day, I would find myself going all around Wilmington, North Carolina, because that's where they shot Silver Bullet. So I love Silver Bullet, so I got to see all the locations for that. So in the day, I was at Tarker's Mills, and at night, I was in Haddonfield. It was like insane. It was a whirlwind 3 days. And it was incredible.
Yeah, that'd be hard to top for sure.
Yeah.
It was sitting there. Okay, I got on set, and they're like, there's the Video Village, and like, oh, you need a chair, and they pulled out, like one of those like director style chairs.
Yeah.
And it said on the back, they're like, oh, James isn't here tonight, so you can sit in his chair. Yeah, it was James Jude Courtney, like the shape. So I'm like, I'm sitting in his chair,
and I'm taking this home with me.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm sitting there, and Anthony Michael Hall is hanging out, and I'm talking to him, and Kyle Richards is there, and Nancy Stevens, and Charles Cyphers, and Annie Matichak, and Judy Greer, and it's like Annie Matichak sitting, like, we're just talking, and I look over, and I see Jamie Lee Curtis, like, not too far away, and I was like, oh my God, like, I didn't know if I was going to meet her. And I'm like, and they are in their same outfits as they were at the end of Halloween 2018, because this is taking place right after. So I was like, oh my God. So I'm not saying anything, whatever. And I'm trying literally not to do anything because I don't want to, I don't want to piss anybody off. I just don't even look at this. I'm just
happy to be here.
You just want to play it cool. Yeah, you just want to play it cool and not
5 minutes later, I see something come up from my peripheral vision, and I look up, and there's Jamie Lee Curtis, like holding her stomach because she's bleeding because of the makeup. And she just walks up kind of, and I'm like, oh, hi, do you need a Band-Aid or something? And she started laughing. And we just started talking, and one of the producers was there who's their friend. So we were all sort of talking about Knives Out. I mean, I didn't have a formal introduction, but we talked for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes just chatting. And then she's like, I'm going to go talk to those fans across the street. And she just like went across the street to talk to some people.
Oh, that's so cool.
Out. And it's funny, I didn't tell, aside from the people who work with me and my family, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, because I was like, I didn't want to be weirdly boastful about it, but at the same time, I wanted to keep it under wraps because it didn't feel like it was a very public thing. And I was going to ask permission to post afterward, but I didn't want to let people know what I was doing. The next morning, my phone's blowing up, and people are texting me and messaging. Are you on the set of Halloween Kills? Are you at Halloween Kills? I'm like, what is going on? Well, some of the other fans, because there were people across the street and looking and trying to see what was going on. Someone had taken pictures with a long lens across the street, and there I am sitting there with Jamie Lee Curtis and a few other people, like around this. You could clearly see me, so anybody who knew me or recognized me saw me, and I was like, because those images were like first images of Jamie Lee Curtis on the set, and here I am.
Oh, right next to nice. So once the evidence is out, then you're like, yeah, that was me. Yeah.
I'm there. Like it was nothing.
You don't
see he has it blown up as a poster in his bathroom or something now. And...
Oh, you mean the one right here?
Yeah.
No, it's I see Jamie on your shoulder.
Yeah. It was so crazy. It was so funny, but really grateful to have had that opportunity. Honestly, and what I noticed on that set, and it's not like I visit movie sets all the time, right? These people, they were a family, like a family. It was so awesome. I mean, by the end of the second night, I felt like a part of them because of the way they made me feel. Right. And it was really, I'm sure there's other sets like that, whatever, but I'm just saying from my personal experience, just the camaraderie among everybody. And I'm not talking, there's cast and there's crew. No. Everybody, Jamie Lee included. What you see is what you get from her. She's not some prima donna or something. She is right there with everybody. And it's just a real testament to everybody there. So, and I'll tell you right now, that movie's going to kick major ass. It is if whether or not you even like the 2018, this movie is brutal as hell.
Oh, I know we're excited for it, and
we are getting it this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be coming out this year.
It's cool for you to say that, you were there for one day and you had the experience that you had. Over the years, you'll hear somebody from a cast or from a studio talk about the same thing you just did and say that it's a family unit and this and that. And I believe it, but it's even more special to me now coming from someone like you, or, you spent one day and then you still have that same statement. Like,
yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there. Yeah, exactly. And I'm an outsider, so I don't. That was literally my my perspective from being there, just seeing what. I mean, there was one person, I forgot who it was. It was her last night on set, and I mean, they had a big party, cake, everyone was singing, there was crying, and it's not like they had been shooting for 6 months. They had probably been shooting for maybe 3 weeks at that point, or maybe a month, if that, maybe not even a month. So, but I mean, when you're doing these night shoots and it's day after day after day, I mean, you get close real quick. And I can see that. Like I said, I mean, I was only there for 2 night shoots, and I felt like, oh man, I love these people. I want to hang out with you guys all the time. You know what I mean? So yeah. I can only imagine what it's like for like 6 weeks or something,
Right.
Now, speaking of movies and stuff, did I see you kind of branched out a little bit and did some producing or got involved in some way with a few movies?
Yeah, there's been projects over the years. The one, probably the most notable one in recent years, was Candy Corn back in, was 2019, with Josh Hasey's Candy Corn. And I met him through, my office manager, Kimmy, she had followed him when his original Kickstarter, but who was involved in the very beginning was Justin Mabry from Night Owl and Trick or Treat Studios. And he had introduced me to Josh, and Josh is just a great guy. And I loved his sensibility, and I loved what he wanted to do with Candy Corn. And we had talked about me coming on as an investor or producer or something like that. And I read the script, and I forgot how it came about. I don't remember. I'll be honest. I don't remember if it was he had this idea or if I brought it to him. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. Basically, I said, PJ would be great for this role of this one role. And I said, if you want, I think I could at least talk to her about reading the script. And, PJ's a sweetheart. And we're like, I know I'd said before, we're good friends, but I was able to talk to her, and she's very sweet. She's like, listen, I'll only read, scripts for 2 people, and that's you and Rob Zombie. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I didn't write this script. But that was cool. So I sent her the
You're
script.
Good company.
Yeah, totally. So I sent her the script that Josh wrote and showed her a part, and she's like, I would love to do it. So my role as executive producer was essentially not only bringing her on, but basically my investment funded her to be in the role. Right. And it's actually great. She and Josh hit it off so well. They're great friends now. And she really, rightfully so, had so many great things to say about him and his style. He's got a vision. He's one of those guys that he worked really close with Rob Zombie for a long time. He was on tour with him. He did his documentary for 31. So he's really good friends with him. And he's got a similar, when you first maybe see Candy Corn or something, you might say, oh yeah, I'm starting to see the Rob Zombie vibe here. But it's not, it's because it's that retro vibe, but it's not the white trash, F-bomb everything, and everybody's a horrible person. You know what I mean? Yeah. Listen, I love Rob and I love his movies, so I have nothing wrong to say bad to say about those, but he's doing a different thing. It's not a carbon copy or a protege, if you will. So I was really excited about that for Josh, and he's written another script that I read that I love, and he's a talent. He's a real talent. But other than that, my friends from the theater and I have been making small movies. Well, again, pre-COVID, we made 3 of them that were pretty cool. We were going to do them every year, and it's just, again, COVID kind of put a wrench in that. But the first one was a short that we did when PJ was here, and we had her in it as a cameo, and it was called November 1st, and I played Michael Myers, which was cool. And then we did one based on Night of the Living Dead, and then we did one based on Freddy. So they were a lot of fun.
Did those ever see the light of day, or are they?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Where can we see those?
Oh, they're on YouTube. If you go to the Fright Rags YouTube channel, which I think is just youtube.com/FrightRags, and you go to playlist, you'll see Fright Rags films, and there's 3. Did we do another one? I can't remember. There's like a commercial in there too, but you'll see and they're only like 4 minutes long. They're not long movies, but they were fun, and we did it like with the November 1st one we did because PJ was going to be here and we showed Halloween. We were going to show Night of the Living Dead the next year, so we filmed part of the film in the cemetery where Night of the Living Dead was. We had Russ Striner come out, the original.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Russ is a good guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. And then when we showed Nightmare on Elm Street, we did a whole month of Nightmare on Elm Street in 2019 in October. We did this Craven Coffee commercial, and we had Sky Elabar, who is a good friend of one of ours, who was in Greasy Strangler, and you've seen him in other things. He came out to be in our little film, which was cool. So if we try to do cameos in each one and try to make it interesting, but you should check them out. I mean, like I said, they're only a few minutes each, so it's not going to kill your night to watch them.
Right.
But
yeah, I'll definitely watch them a little bit later. Are you only featured in the November 1st one, or are you in the other ones as well?
I'm in all of them. Like it's just, listen, we're a small crew, so we're all involved in some way. So
cool.
I'm in all of them as various parts. But I mean, Chris, who's our production manager, is in them. We have friends in it. So like November 1st was literally just me because it's following Michael of what happens the day after Halloween. That was the premise.
Right.
Night of the Living Dead, we had some of our friends as zombies, and one of our friends who helped make the film, his son was in it, and Chris, our production manager's daughter, was in it. So it's just, friends, family. Who can we grab on a Saturday and make a fun film?
Right. So you mentioned Halloween as your introduction to horror and everything. Remember how old you were when you first watched it?
Oh, never forget.
Yeah.
I was 4 years old. It was October 30th, 1981.
So the day before Halloween, or like, hey, watch this.
The only reason I know that specifically is because that was the night it first aired on national television. It was NBC. It was the Friday night movie. I actually have the TV guide from that week.
Oh wow!
With the average, I bought it on eBay later. I just not like I kept it, but it's funny because I've known a few of my friends. That was the first time they ever saw it too, and they were similar age. But we were at a family friend's house for a party, and I'm the youngest of 4, so I'm basically a ghost, because my brothers and sister are off playing with the friends, and my parents are, probably drinking coffee and playing cards at the table or whatever. And I'm like, Mom, I want to go home. And like any good 80s mom, she's like, just go watch TV until we're done. And so
little did she know.
Yeah. I literally walked my butt up to like this big old console TV that was probably like a 19-inch screen in the middle of it, turned on one of 3 channels, and Halloween came on. And I didn't know what it was. I was 4. I'd only seen Popeye and Charlie Brown and, whatever. Scooby-Doo, what the hell is this? And so I'm literally watching this, and I remember not being scared as much as I was just completely, utterly transfixed by what I was watching. And I mean, years later, I would be scared when I'd watch them. But at 4, I think I just had no clue. But I'll never forget him coming through the closet. And what pissed me off for many years of my life after that was the fact that, if you know, that broadcast had scenes in that movie that were never in that movie before. They had shot the television scenes during the making of Halloween 2, which debuted that year in theaters. It was scenes in the courtroom or the conference room with Loomis. It was scenes more about them being brother and sister, which never existed in the original. And so as I grew up and I would rent the movie, that didn't have the scenes in it. And there was no internet. So in my head, I'm like, no, I remember these things. And it was like 1996 or 97, early days of the internet, when I would get on these message boards or before message boards, was just these websites. And they were finally coming out with a TV version, I think on Laserdisc or something. And I got to see those images that I'd never or hadn't seen for like 15, 16, 17 years,
Yeah.
It was like confirmation. I was like, yes, I was right.
That was real. Yeah, that really happened.
Yeah, but nowadays you can just Google everything. There's no secrets,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my foray into it. I never looked back.
So you just dove right into horror then, huh?
I just wanted to keep seeing it. Like literally by 9 years old, we had several different. This was before Blockbuster, so we had several different mom and pop stores around us. But there was one about a mile away, little less than a mile that I would ride my bike to, had to cross the highway on a bridge and go to this place, and I'd buy my comics next door and rent my movies there. By 9 years old, my parents were so like annoyed having to be called by the video shop every time I wanted to rent a movie to get permission. They're like, can you just sign the back of his card so he can rent whatever he wants? And then I was off to the races. Then I could just get whatever I wanted.
Man, I wish I had one of those. I remember trying to, I made like a little sandwich of 3 movies. And, when I went into the video store, and I think my mom was there with me, and I think I had like the unrated cut of Jason Goes to Hell or something like that in the middle. And the video clerk says something, any other time he wouldn't care. But this one time he's like, well, this version is a little extra, graphic or whatever.
I'm like, shut up.
I know. I'm like, well, if you wouldn't have said nothing, I would have been getting out of here with this. Take my money.
That's funny.
So were you not able to get it?
No, my mom made me go get something else.
She didn't let you get it?
No, but if he wouldn't have said anything, she wouldn't have known. I was like, here's my movies, let's go. Nah.
Damn loudmouth.
Spoil the party. Spoil the party. Yeah.
That's funny.
That's
trying to do a good job, and not let a 10-year-old see Jason Goes to Hell.
How dare you? How dare you not risk your job to?
It's funny when I'll never forget. I think I don't. Again, going back to dates is kind of gets fuzzy. I just never forget. It was 1988, I think it was. So I was 10, turning 11, and my friend and I. It was either Hellraiser just come out on video or Child's Play just come out on video. I couldn't remember which, but either way. We literally pulled up to the curb to this park. I mean, my friend and I were out of my parents' van by the time my mom parked. We already had Child's Play and Hellraiser in our hands, and we're like, yes. So we get home. Now, at the time, I thought, based on the commercials, because they were doing those audience reactions for the first time, I thought Child's Play was going to be the scariest movie of all time, because that's what the commercial said. Like, people were saying it's the scariest movie I've ever seen. So I'm like, it's got to be crazy. Let's watch that second. Let's watch Hellraiser first. Now, my mom goes, I've been watching a lot of movies up to this point. My mom's like, I'm going to watch this with you. I want to see the kind of thing you're interested in. And I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, my parents do not like horror movies. I was the only one in my family that was gravitated toward this stuff. They didn't show me any of this stuff. We put on freaking Hellraiser for 2 10-year-olds and a mom. Are you out of here? I have an 11-year-old son. There's no way in hell I'm showing him that movie right now.
Right.
And my mom halfway through goes, what the hell do you see in this crap? And my friend and I were like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. She didn't turn it off. I think she walked out. And then I'll tell you, never watch Hellraiser then Child's Play. You kind of get, like, I love Child's Play, but it's not, you can't, that's not a good pairing.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Child's Play. I mean, Chucky's probably my favorite horror icon, to be honest. But I mean, they're completely different, and I know when I get into Chucky mindset that it's kind of more on the comedy tip and not so much on the gore.
Exactly.
But I'm cool
with
the
first one, which was probably the darkest one, really. It's still kind of comedic in some ways, and. I guess you could probably follow that with Hellraiser, but Hellraiser, I mean, it's hard to follow Hellraiser, especially if you've never seen it before, and you're like, and you're a kid, and you're like, all this sex and blood, and dude looking like a muscle and wearing the face of some guy, like it's crazy.
You just got to kind of sit back and regroup after that one, like.
Yeah.
I was late to the party with Hellraiser. I caught that in like my early 20s, and I was like, why the hell have I not watched this sooner? It's so good.
I remember watching it really young and like being a little creeped out, but it was good. It was good stuff. So if your parents didn't really get into horror or anything, how did you keep up and know that this movie was coming out or that movie besides the regular ads on TV?
We had gotten a beta machine of all things back in 81, 82. At Rochester here was a test ground for VHS and beta. So they were trying out both. So my parents ended up getting a beta, and we would go to the video store, and it was like a Friday night, Saturday night thing. and I would always just venture into the horror section. And because I'd seen Halloween, I was like, I want to see more. Where can I find a guy with a mask killing these teens, basically? So I would just, oh, sweet, like Slumber Party Massacre. This looks amazing, you know, like The Burning, My Bloody Valentine. Oh, this is Friday the 13th. Oh my God. And then, you know, I'd read Fangoria, and that's really what it was, you know. And it's not that I had every issue or got it every month, but I would read it. And it's funny, later on, when I got older, my parents told me, they actually admitted, they said, you know, we were kind of worried about you for a while. We were kind of worried because you were into this death and all the stuff. And then what turned them around was when I started getting into makeup effects at a young age and trying to make it look like I was bleeding. And I was so interested in the movie magic of it and wanting to know how did they chop that person's head off. I think they started to realize then that he really likes the, you know, the
art,
magic, the art of it, not like because I want to go out and murder somebody.
Yeah. That's the misconception with the genre quite often. A lot of outsiders, they just, you know, they look at people like us and think that, you know, maybe we're bad people or whatever. No, we just enjoy the art of it all, the special effects, how it's done, how the cake is made, or however you want to say it, you know. And a lot of other films don't they don't have the same, you know, crazy scenes that these movies do. And, you know,
especially when you're young and you see them and you're 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10 years old, you're impressionable. So seeing these visceral, like, oh my God, that guy just got his eye taken out. Whoa. And, you know, you're a kid, man. That's like amazing. Right?
And he got his eye taken out by some monster that you will never see in the real world, you know, like it's the escape of it all. And that's what I love about movies so much. It's like, hey, take me out of the real world for 2 hours, please, and show me something that I will never see, you know, in my daily walking.
Exactly.
What are some more recent horror movies that you've dug?
Oh man. You know, every time I think of this question, I always get stumped because honestly, there have been so many amazing movies in recent years. I mean, really, like, you know, but I know one, and I don't know if this is still considered a recent movie, but I'm wearing it right now, Trick or Treat. That was one in recent memory, even though it's been 10 years or plus, that was, you know, you watch movies now as an adult and you have a different perspective. You know, if you're married or have kids, or just because you're living on your own, you have responsibilities, you have a job, you have all of these things you didn't have when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. And I think for me personally, I can sometimes be a little bit more critical of a movie because now I'm kind of like old and jaded, right? So like I'm 43 now. If I had seen in Halloween 4, I'm just using this as an example, was the first Halloween movie I saw in theaters. At 11, I love that movie so much because I'm so nostalgic for it. You know what I'm saying? But if I were 43 watching that movie now for the first time, I'd be like, that movie kind of sucks, right? Even though I don't think it sucks. But do you know what I'm saying? You have that lens. So what I mean is Trick or Treat was the first movie in a long time that I sat and watched and went, this is an instant classic. This is perfect from beginning to end. And I have now felt the way I did when I was 10 years old. That was one of the only times in recent memory that I can remember thinking, oh my God, I feel like a kid again. This movie is so perfect. And, you know, and I didn't have that sort of jaded look at it.
Right.
You know, there's been other movies in recent years. I'm trying to think, you know, Insidious, I know is still like 2011, but that was the last time I remember being really scared in a movie theater. Like legitimately like, holy crap, what is happening right now? I mean, the Darth Maul thing took me out of it a little bit at the end, but leading up to that, no joke, I was scared to rewatch that movie until last year. I finally rewatched it, and I still jumped at the same spots that it did in the theater. You know? But oh my God, I feel horrible for missing like 100 movies, but I don't know. I mean, there's just great horror being made all the time. I hate it when people are like, they don't make movies like they do in the 80s, or there's no good horror after
you just gotta look for them.
That's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, you gotta look for them.
Oh my God.
People want to be spoon-fed stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but sometimes you gotta
look at just the last few years with the A24 stuff, like Hereditary, Midsummer is amazing, but then you get these big franchises like those two movies were incredible. Like you're rebooting or remaking a sort of, old, obviously it's a book and then it was the TV series, but like those movies were incredible, So you can take those properties, make them huge. You can do these kind of interesting artsy type films. I mean, Psycho Goreman was hilarious. I just watched that recently. And like that was fun.
That's
Mandy,
one that's on my list. I need to see. Psycho Goreman. I gotta see it.
So much fun. I loved Mandy. I loved Color Out of Space. I mean, Nick Cage being Nick Cage. I watched VFW last year. I thought that was pretty good. Like I'm pretty easy to entertain. Like in most cases, I like to I don't try to be hypercritical about things.
That's basically all you really want is to just be entertained.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. I go into a movie. I don't go in with the mindset I'm going to pick it apart and shit on it or something. I just want to be entertained, and that's it.
Yeah. One that I watched recently that was like that, just straight entertainment, and it's actually starring Nick Cage. Since you mentioned him, I'm bringing it up. Willy's Wonderland.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, I think you'll dig it, man. If you go in just expecting an hour and a half of fun.
Yeah,
I mean it's Nick Cage with Chuck E. Cheese mixed together, basically.
Yeah. I mean you just said magic words right there.
Nick Cage and Chuck E. Cheese. Yep.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, there's and what I love about services like Shudder is that they've been putting out these original films, and they're also international. You're getting from all over the place, and I don't know. I love that horror can be such a melting pot for so many nationalities and races and colors and creeds. Like it's just so wild. I love that, and I love that sort of Shudder is a great place for that. And silly film. Another good movie I saw recently was Host. I thought that movie was extremely effective.
That was
for being
very
70 minutes on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. That was it was pretty it was pretty freaky. I mean, there were some spots that was like kind of through. It was definitely a creative.
Yeah,
you got to look around for the good ones sometimes. I mean, it's like it's kind of like digging through the crates for vinyl or CDs or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to dig around in the used stacks, and I remember once I found an imported Rage Against the Machine live album or whatever, and I was so thrilled, but now, you take that to streaming and Shudder. Maybe you're flipping through the list on there and you find some movie and you watch it. Like, this is amazing. Why don't more people know about this? Mm-hmm. And you feel like you want to tell everybody. I mean, Terrifier was one that kind of slowly just grew, and now Art the Clown,
a huge following.
Yeah, Art the Clown has kind of become like a new horror icon in a way, which is great.
100%.
So, yeah. So you just have to give these people a chance, and I mean, when Halloween came out, Nightmare on Elm Street, we weren't familiar with them then. We had to give them a shot, and now we love them. So. Just, for people listening, same thing with these new directors and new monsters and whatnot that, all these that come out, give them a shot. And
I feel bad for filmmakers today, though, because there's so much. It's a great thing and it's a blessing and a curse. There's so much content. It's hard for anything to have, in my mind, it's going to be hard for things to have staying power, like something like a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Halloween, because they don't have enough time to breathe, Right. It's big on Twitter for a weekend and then it's gone. And then it's, it's like, oh yeah, that movie. When did that come out? Like 5 years ago? No, that was last March, and you're like, oh, that was less than a year ago, or, something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because there are great movies that you can watch, but that's the other thing. When we were kids, we watched the same 5 movies 100 times. I don't know about you, but that's what I did.
Yeah.
I watched other things, but the ones that I remember the most, I watched the most. And when have you watched another movie a second time in recent years? That's a new movie, not one that you've seen 100 times.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I mean,
because there's so much other stuff to watch, and you don't have a chance to digest and really. I can recite Halloween back to front. Like I could probably do it backwards at this point because I've seen it times, and I'm so intimately knowledgeable of that movie from my experience watching it. That it's a comforting thing. And that's why I wear t-shirts and have posters and have all this stuff. When you've seen something once, it's like having a meal at one restaurant once that might have been great, but when's the last time you went back? Whereas you might have had 100 Big Macs in your life. You have probably more affinity for McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the one thing that you go back to the most. And I haven't personally done that with new movies, so I don't know the stickiness of them.
Yeah, like you said, you don't get to digest it. It's here today, gone tomorrow, because there is so much content. Like back in the day, we were talking about the video stores and stuff earlier. The new Nightmare on Elm Street would be the new release shelf for 2 months. You know what I mean? So it was like you got time to take it in, and before the next flavor came out. So it's hard. I get it, and it's so much easier to put content out now.
Yeah.
And
anybody, it's in multiple places. It's not just the video store. It's your whole TV has 100 channels of video stores that have hundreds and thousands of movies.
Yep.
It's
too much at sometimes,
Yeah. I often find myself just falling asleep trying to pick something to watch.
Boom.
Exactly. You get comfortable and you're like, seeing it. I don't know if I want to get into that right now.
Yeah, but there's always those ones that you will stop on, though. Like you said, you're flipping through and Halloween's on, you're probably gonna stop.
But that's the thing. Like, I've seen it 100 million times. So there are plenty of nights where I'm okay, kids are in bed and my wife's doing her own thing. I'm gonna go watch a movie, and I stand in front of my movies, just my physical media, not even streaming, and I'm sitting there going, and I pull like 30 out, and I start pushing them away, and then I end up with Friday the 13th Part 3. Because I love that movie so much, and I just want to go watch something that I've seen and zone out.
That's your comfort food, as you were saying. That's your comfort food. So it's like you said, you go to the restaurant. There's this big menu of all these things where you're like, I still want this same thing here in the corner that I've already had plenty of times, and I know it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good way to look at it. Get back to the company a little bit before we wrap up. Is there any teasers you could throw out, any upcoming releases that you can mention? Or?
So this summer we're taking a little bit of a detour with some releases, meaning we're not going to be focused solely on horror. One we teased earlier today already on Instagram, and that was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which we'll be doing shirts for. But another one is a much beloved childhood film. We're doing Back to the Future coming up.
Nice.
That's cool.
It's a first collection. We're doing just a couple items right now, but we'll flesh it out over the next year and a half. We can do the whole trilogy. We've got a lot that we want to do, but we really wanted to. We had just gotten it back in January because we renegotiated our deal with Universal and added that franchise, and definitely. So, other ones I'll get to in a second. And we just wanted to make sure we got something out soon for Back to the Future while we worked on other stuff. I think it's a great release, but we've got other things coming. And then as throughout the summer, in terms of these get to the sort of horror / things, but we're doing The Burbs and we're doing People Under the Stairs.
Ooh,
and
nice.
Interestingly enough, neither of those films have ever been licensed out for official merchandise to my knowledge. Aside from home video, obviously, but in terms of T-shirts or anything else, because I was told by them, they said, we don't think we've ever licensed these, because normally when you license something, they give you assets, and those are approved images or titles or editorial that we can use without like we can create our own assets. They just take longer to get approval, but these are things they just give you like, hey, these are already approved if you want to use them. And they're like, we have zero assets to give you. We have nothing. We don't even have a logo. We have nothing to give you. And we're like, oh, that's okay. We'll make our own stuff. So all of this is going to be fresh and new, and I'm looking forward to them.
That's exciting. How I've always wondered when you guys release like a new T-shirt or like you guys put out the Night of the Living Dead lunchbox recently.
Mm-hmm.
How now are you like sourcing out these materials? Are they being made by another company? Do you have the facilities now to make these, or you guys just do like the screen printing stuff?
I mean, we use multiple vendors. So like even our
Right.
T-shirts are printed right down the street from us. I mean, we work really closely. I mean, we're basically partners at this point with a print shop that's like 2 miles away from us. But all these other items, the figures and things, we have we work with several different factories in China for various things, lounge pants or other custom garments, obviously pins, socks, stuff like that. And then, but in terms of figures and stuff, we've actually partnered with a few companies that are friends of mine. So my one friend, Joe Senna, runs a company called Fourth Castle, and he does sort of like OEM stuff. So if someone has a license and then like say Spencer's wants like, I don't know, like they want to do Halloween plushies. So he's like, I need someone, you know, I can do plushies. Like Joe would be like, I can do plushies, but I need someone that has the Halloween license. And then he comes find someone like me, and then we all work together. Right. And that's kind of how the Nano Force figures and the lunchboxes started with him, because he's like, well, I do lunchboxes. And he actually developed the Nano Force name and the idea of these army men coming in packs of 12 with a 13th figure that's 4 inches, that's glow in the dark. Yeah. And so that's his proprietary thing that he does with his factory. So it actually worked out that way. Diamond wanted Halloween, which is why we got involved. And that was supposed to be a Diamond Select thing, but COVID hit. And a lot of people at Diamond got furloughed. We talked to our buyer, and I said, hey, would you mind if I did it instead? And they said, go for it. Because I said, because we were already committed to a certain quantity. We had tooling made. It was crazy. We had money invested in this. And that's why we turned around and decided to do it direct. And it worked out great. And then, of course, led into Night of the Living Dead, Nano Force, and lunchboxes. The figures, the 3 3/4 inch figures, was a similar deal where I had a friend of mine who used to work for Mattel, and he started his own company called Plastic Meatball. But he and I were friends, and we were talking like we should work together. I'm like, yeah, what should we do together? And I said, well, maybe we should do some Joe Bob stuff. And, you know, Joe Bob and his manager, Tracy, they're like, yeah, let's do it. So we did that, and that worked out really good. And I was like, what else can we do? And I'm like, you know, it'd be fun to do Halloween. We could do Michael, like Reaction's already done, but let's do Linda and Lori and Annie and you know, maybe a bunch of other ones that we got in the works. And so the nice thing about people like Mark from Plastic Meatball and Joe is they can help facilitate certain things. So yes, we're partnering up, but they take some of the brunt of the responsibility of dealing with the factory and all that. Whereas we have to do that when it's like lounge pants and stuff, which is fine. But this helps because, like I said, we grew quite a bit last year, and to be kind of doing all of these things at once, I mean, it's kind of insane, at least for us. You know, we're only an 8-person team. It's not like we're some major, like, huge corporation. So it's a lot to take on. So all the help we can get in terms of that has been great.
Right. So you mentioned putting your orders and stuff for like the lunch boxes. Do you have like a set number before it goes on sale, or do you like base it on like the pre-sale totals and then order that many of a particular item? Or?
Yeah. So basically what happens is the factory has an MOQ, which is a minimum order quantity. So you can't, like, I'll just give you an example. Lunch boxes, it's 2,000. We have to make sure we can sell, or at least have it, you know, we have to order 2,000. If we're going to do a lunchbox, we can't do 15 of them. We can't do 100 of them. We have to do 2,000. Obviously more the better, but 2,000 is the base number. Yeah. Basically what happened with the lunchboxes and the Nano Force, because they were Diamond Selects, we were only going to do 2,000 of those, and the minimum order quantity for Nano Force was 2,500. We had committed to those. And so those were already in production, okay? And what ended up happening was I didn't know how well this thing was going to sell. So what am I don't have a crystal ball. Yeah. So we're like, you know what, this Nano Force thing, they look awesome, but people don't know what Nano Force is, and they're little, army men. I don't know how popular this is going to be. Let's just limit it to the 2,500 we're committed to. We'll put them up in September and we'll sell them. They're already in production. Well, they sold out in 10 minutes. People were pissed. I get it. And I'm like, shoot, like we missed an opportunity. We didn't meet the demand that was there for them, which is why we're doing a second edition coming out tomorrow on Wednesday, because we flipped the colors, and we didn't want to hurt the people that got the original ones, but we flipped the colors on and called it second edition. So you couldn't pass this off as an original, right. But it gave people at least a chance to get it. So with the lunch boxes, we were going to release separately in October, and we had 2,000 already ordered from the factory. But once Nano Force hit, I said, we can't just do 2,000 of these things. Like if we do, we're going to piss people off even more because people know what a lunchbox is. You know, if Nanoforce sold so well, we got a lunchbox with a thermos coming. Holy crap, that could be killer. So we said, okay, they were already working on the 2000s. And so I'm like, we have to do this as an open pre-order for like 5 days. I can't, you know, and we did it for like 3 days. And we sold way more than 2,000, like a lot more. And thank God. So that's why it was so delayed in getting. So in stuff like this, we don't know what the demand is. And you can't just fire up the factory again for another few if you missed it. You know, you got to order them in these increments of thousands. So for something like the action figures and now the Nanoforce and lunchboxes, we do a pre-order for 3 or 5 days or 7 days. And we take the orders, and what that allows us to do is gauge the demand. If it blows past the MOQ, great, we're good. If it's less than the MOQ, we'll just order enough probably to get us to the MOQ, and that way we'll have extras to sell at the end. Or we'll do extras anyway. If we go over an MOQ or something, we'll still do extras because inevitably, even within a week, people will miss out. Yeah. And so we want to give people a chance to get some later on. You know, they're still going to be limited in a sense because once they're gone, they're kind of gone. Yeah. So we
lost you for a second.
Oh, you good? Okay.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Yeah, we're back.
But yeah, I just want to be able to meet demand, you know, as much as we can. Even if people have to wait a while, at least it pisses off less people. And then there's less scalpers. And we've already had scalpers for our Darcy figure, you know. It's not even. I mean, it's like, why, you know?
Yeah, I think I saw people posting about seeing it on eBay or something already. Like, that's crazy.
They're going for like $90 or something. Crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, that whole side of collecting is out of control. But
and I get why some things are strictly limited edition and all that. I understand it, but it's crazy when you see people just gouging other people, and it's just. But we can't do anything about it. If people are going to try to sell something, they're going to try to sell, even if they get just one. You know, that's why at least with the open pre-order, it gives people ample time that want it a chance. And, you know, 98% of the people that would have wanted to buy one for their own enjoyment will have a chance to get one. And then the other people that want it for a collector's item or value or whatever, which may or may not be, then have at it. I mean, what else? You know?
Yeah, as long as the right people get theirs, that's good. That's good. But so hey, you want to add anything, Crypto?
Well, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you starting up a company like this, you know, for fans, horror fans all around, you know, because the horror genre, you know, I mean, it's often just kind of looked down upon by people that don't know what it's about, people that aren't into it. And even in like, you know, TV and film and whatnot, it's kind of I guess you could say the black sheep of the movie family in a way, but it's loved by so many. And so it's cool to see someone.
Best community.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like we're so passionate, you know, like you don't see people that are fans of drama movies, like, you know, boasting about their love for them as much as horror fans.
You're not wearing your Titanic t-shirt now? Like,
no,
you mean you don't go to drama conventions?
No, I mean, my mom, I mean, I think she wore her Pretty Woman shirt back in the day, but that's about it. I think that was the only one that she had. But yeah, I mean, you know, so it's nice to see a fellow horror lover starting up a company like this and saying, hey, I love this stuff. And you know, other people do too. And so I just saying thank you for that.
No, thank you. And honestly, thank everybody for supporting us, because, you know, if it weren't for, you know, everybody out there, you guys, everybody like supporting us, we wouldn't have jobs, literally not have a job. Like, it's funny, you know, people always say you should go on Shark Tank. And I'm like, that's the last thing I would ever do in my life. Not that I have anything against Shark Tank, but that's not what I'm looking for in my business. And I don't have any investors in this business, but I actually have thousands of investors, because it's each individual customer of ours. They're an investor in our company, literally. Like, and it is really like a tight knit group of people that work with me, and we are like a family. And I don't use that term loosely. And we're all very grateful to be able to be doing this every day. I mean, yeah, it can suck sometimes, and there are days where I'm just stressed out. But a worse day now is, better than any other job that I've ever had on a good day, because at the root of it all, it's just because I want to do the best we can do, put out the best products we can, provide the best service. Like, it's all rooted in the fact that we just want to do really cool stuff. Like, that's all it is, and so it can be stressful just trying to meet this image that we all have of what this should be. So we just keep striving for it every day, and I'm grateful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, every job comes with stress and problems, and now you're one of the problems your job has is, what weapon should Michael Myers be holding on this shirt, or should he be on the left side or on the right side?
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking, you guys are pushing 20 years, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll be 18 years this year, so it's my company can vote apparently now.
You vote now, yeah. Couple more years, you'll be drinking.
Yeah. Already started.
Shh. Yeah, don't tell your company's parents. Yeah.
Oh shoot!
Don't let the folks find out.
Exactly.
Don't let them listen to this.
So have your parents changed their tone on horror, or now that you see you're making a living doing it, or
they wear my shirts proudly.
That's great.
And, it's funny because we did one a long time ago. It was called The Great Pumpkin Massacre, and it was all the Charlie Brown kids from Peanuts with just X's in their eyes, and the big pumpkin massacre like coming up over the Great Pumpkin Patch. And my mom loves to wear that shirt, and they've actually helped fulfill orders. A lot of those Joe Bob figures we shipped last year came from their house.
Nice.
I had to take them over to there, and both my parents, my mom and my dad, filled orders for me.
That's cool.
But they were happy to do it. My mom's like, "You got any more? We'd love to do more." It's like,
nice.
Yeah, like they haven't come around on the movies, but they're proud. I know they're extremely proud of what I've been able to do with it, and they're so supportive of it. It's they're always asking me how it's going and everything, and they love coming by the office and stuff. So it's great. It's cool to be like, I'm doing something growing up that, I mean, who would ever think growing up watching movies on a Friday night with your friends or by yourself or whatever that you could make a living doing something about those,
Yeah.
I would have never in a million years thought that could have been that could have been what I was going to be doing in whatever 25, 30 years. There's no way that wouldn't even been an inkling. So, it's pretty awesome.
So that little 4-year-old sitting there watching that giant TV, this wasn't even an afterthought, right?
It was an interview. It was on the job training.
There you go, on the job training. That's good. That's what you gotta do when you wanna watch a movie. Be like, honey, take care of the kids. I gotta go do some training. And go off in your own room. And
it's not even a joke. I built right behind me is a movie theater room that I built out. We moved in this house several years ago, and I've got
training facility.
So that is my dojo over there.
The dojo.
Yeah, it's the gym.
Exactly. I got to do some reps.
There you go. Get a little workout in. Yeah.
Oh,
man, I want a gym like that in my house.
Right. I'm lucky that I got a spare room for all my toys and podcasting. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
My research facility now. That's what I'm going to call it. I'll be in the laboratory. But
that's how I started Fright Rags. It was a spare room of our apartment. I literally had 3 boxes of shirts sitting there and a computer and my little tube TV and a futon, and that was my home office / warehouse, I guess.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
We thank you for coming and hanging out and chatting with us. Before we wrap up, anything you want to add or throw out there or plug, or besides frightrags.com?
Thanks for the support, and just check out fright-rags.com. We're on social media at frightrags, all in word, on Instagram, Twitter. And just sign up for our texts and our new email newsletter. We send out updates all the time with what's coming up, so you'll never miss a new release. And yeah, just thank you for having me on, and thanks to everybody listening and for their support, because again, we can't do this without you guys.
And don't forget, our listeners get that discount. Use Steve Crypto 10.
That's right. One
checkout.
word.
Boom.
One word. Steve Crypto 10. Save you a few bucks.
Ben Scrivens, thanks for hanging out, man. Let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
That was a really, really fun conversation with Ben Scrivens from Fright Rag. Be sure to head over to Fright Rags, fright-rags.com, and check them out. They got a lot of cool shit, like seriously. So check it out, fright-rags.com, and use Steve Crypto 10 at checkout. Get you a little discount. And as always, thank you guys. And be sure to swing by our Buy Me a Coffee page as well, buymeacoffee.com/SteveCrypto, and head out and get you a copy of Scary Monsters magazine. It's a cool, classic monster magazine. I think you guys will dig it. Most of you that listen. It's really cool. Check it out. We have our ad in the back, so we're super excited about it and really pushing it. So get there, get it, and Scary Monsters was actually just voted the best classic horror magazine on the Rondo Awards, so that's pretty cool. Says a lot about the great magazine. Check it out. We've been to Steve and Crypto's show. Thank you guys for listening. Peace.